These are the NBA Nepo babies that failed, starting with Zaire Wade. From early on, Zaire lived the dream. He was a basketball star from the start, drawing millions of eyes to even his middle school games. He soared through the rankings and played on some of the top teams in the country. Fame, fortune, and legacy felt all but guaranteed. Seeing the name Zaire Wade in lights seemed inevitable. But today, the second coming of the Flash is nowhere to be found. Keljin Blevins is one of the NBA's more recent but more forgettable instances of nepotism. A fringe prospect at best, Blevins got in just because of his relation to Damian Lillard, his cousin. Coming out of Montana State, Blevins wasn't exactly on anybody's draft boards after averaging 12-6 on a team that couldn't crack 500 in the Big Sky Conference. But having blood relations with one of the best point guards of the decade, and one who had pledged his loyalty to the franchise, pays off. The Blazers were willing to do anything for Lillard. Well, I guess apart from building a real team around him. But when Lillard came to the franchise asking them to help out his cousin, they were more than happy to do so. And props to Dame, but that didn't mean Blevins didn't get in on merit. He averaged 4 points per game on 16 minutes without starting a single one, and was heavily undersized as a 6'4" small forward. I mean, even him having a spot on the G League team had Dame's fingerprints all over it. And when he was signed to a two-way deal in the next season, that was even more so the case. There were certainly guys in that G League team that were passed off to Blevins, but like in the Thanasis case, it was definitely nice for Dame to have one of his closest family members alongside him. It was interesting to see how a guy with a little G League success would do in the NBA. And when he played in just 17 games while shooting 25% from the floor, it seemed about right. He would be able to snag another two-way deal in the next season when his playing time nearly doubled due to injuries and team struggles. But when he did, he kind of sucked either way. Blevins became more of a running joke within the fan base than anything. It was clear why he was in the league, but for fans who have been gifted one of the most loyal guys in the league, you can't really get mad if his cousin comes along for the ride too. And at least it wasn't annoying. If you were to ask a random NBA fan who Keljin Blevins was, odds are they probably wouldn't know, which proves how he kept his head down and went to work. He's been playing overseas for the last couple of years and is quietly putting up some numbers, but his only chance to ever get back in the league is the long shot chance that Dame can put in one more good word with the team. And Zaire Wade, as the spitting image of his dad, was frying 5th grade kids and garnering nearly 10 million views. He quickly became a mainstay in the basketball community. Growing up under constant spotlight, he became known not only for his resemblance to Dwayne Wade, but also for his play style, an athletic two-guard who could attack the basket, facilitate, and hit mid-range jump shots. He was a highlight machine, and entering high school brought even more attention and pressure. At American Heritage High School, Zaire showed promise. He drew some Division I interest, including an offer from Nebraska. He may not have had his father's elite quickness, but flashes of quick burst to the rim kept us waiting for the Wade genetics to truly kick in. However, transferring to powerhouse Sierra Canyon for his senior year marked a turning point. Teaming up with Bronny James brought massive attention, but an ankle injury limited Zaire to just 3 games, in which he averaged only 4 points. Frustrated by the lack of playing time, Dwayne Wade publicly criticized the coaching staff, but on a team stacked with 5-star talents like Brandon Boston and Amari Bailey, it's fair to say Zaire hadn't earned a larger role. Zaire extended his high school career by transferring to Brewster Academy, hoping to rebuild his stock. While he had the chance to prove himself, he only received a few mid-major offers. Then came the most controversial decision of his career, foregoing college to join the G League. Now this was an absolute nightmare, and let me tell you why. First things first, if you guys watch all these videos, you know how I feel about the G. I don't care how old your competition is, you're not getting any better. Playing with 4 guys on your team and 5 guys on the other that are strictly trying to get theirs to make the league does absolutely zero good for your game. This is just a talent showcase, and secondly, Zaire flat out just wasn't ready for this. His father, now part owner of the Utah Jazz and its G League affiliate, helped facilitate this move, but the results were disastrous. Zaire averaged only 2 points per game, shooting 26% from the field and just 18% from 3. The G League quickly exposed the holes in his game. Despite his elite genetics, Zaire looked far from NBA ready. The issues were clear, man. Despite his highlight reel plays, Zaire was still super raw. He lacked a reliable right hand, had a slight frame that struggled with contact, and wasn't consistent from deep. His flashy style of play, celebrated online, didn't translate to professional success. Rather than focusing on fundamental development, it seemed the focus was on the viral dunks and mixtapes a bit. I mean, I don't want to compare him to his dad since he's a man in his own right, but let's take a look at D-Wade as a player, since he, of course, is going to be Zaire's best comparison. This guy had every disadvantage in the book. He was an undersized 2-guard and he couldn't shoot the 3-ball. But what he did to make up for it was transform his brain into a supercomputer, become a mid-range assassin, finish insanely well at the basket, defend as hard as he could, and got so jacked that people today still accuse him of taking human growth hormones. Zaire just didn't complete his game, man. There's so many attributes like the ones I just listed that just left you wanting to see some more from him. As an undersized 2-guard without the frame or skills to keep up on the other end, Zaire was quickly overwhelmed at the pro level. The path he chose demanded he play point guard, but he lacked the skills and consistency to thrive in that role. About a year passed by until he finally made his next move, which was to play in the Basketball African League while he recovered from injury. He would appear in 4 games in 2023 while averaging 9, 4, and 4, and although the critics came at him, he did his best to tune them out. He knew that the NBA wasn't going to be easy to get into. I mean, this guy had the frame, but not the length to be a big guy. And frankly, at a time where positional versatility wasn't a thing at all for post players, this guy was trying to be a big when he wasn't actually that big. He had to follow his dad's coattails a bit more to get the collegiate opportunity, and there he found a bit more of a role, winning Big East 6th Man of the Year in his senior season, while averaging 6 points and 4 rebounds. Wearing his father's 33 jersey brought some extra weights and probably too much weight for him to carry. He had great athleticism, was a relentless rebounder and defender, and while on offense, improved year after year. But sadly, it probably wasn't enough for him to be successful on the next level. I mean, he blamed his pretty average numbers on just playing with the flow of the offense, which is true, but I mean, this guy didn't have like a go-to bag to cook dudes like his dad did, and he didn't have the size to be a consistent lob threat either. He was scoring in the flow of the offense out of necessity, not choice. Despite that, he would declare for the 2008 NBA draft and get selected by the Sacramento Kings in the 2nd round, before ending up with the Knicks after a couple of trades. It was a feel-good headline for sure. Ewing got a chance with his dad's former team, fans wanted it to work, the team wanted it to work, but after just 3 preseason games, averaging 8.1 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.7 assists, he would be released so that the Knicks could meet roster requirements. They would sign him to their G League affiliates, and he would have a pretty successful first stint with the team, averaging 17 and 9, but would sprain his MCL and get released not long after. In 2011, Ewing would get signed to a 10-day contract with the New Orleans Hornets, before getting signed for the rest of the season. He played 7 games with the team before deciding to go overseas, as he realized that his best chance at another shot in the NBA wouldn't be by playing in the summer league year after year. It wasn't a case of lazy attitude or immaturity, he just couldn't play an NBA role, man. And so when a young high schooler by the name of Glen Rice Jr. came up, people wanted to see if he held any of the excitement that his dad brought to the game. He would be ranked somewhere in between a 3 and a 4-star coming out of college, and ended up committing to Georgia Tech. And when he got there was no doubt some real potential. He had a solid frame at 6'6", had athleticism that kept him competitive around the rim, and on defense, and like his dad, was a pretty good spot-up shooter. As a freshman, he would shoot around 47% off bench minutes, and would be able to pick up some real PT in the next season. But behind the scenes, Glen Jr. was becoming an issue. At the start of his junior year, he would be suspended for 3 games for an undisclosed violation of team rules. After dropping 13 a game that season, he would be suspended again and miss the last 6 games of the season, before ultimately being dismissed by the team for driving under the influence. Oh, and firing off some shots while he was at it. Although he would have been a top potential transfer in the portal, let's be honest, not a lot of teams are going to want him. And so he declared for the G League draft, where he'd go in the 4th round. And surprisingly, he still thrived. In 42 games, Rice Jr. averaged 13 points per game on 49, 39, 75 shooting splits. And when it came playoff time, he went to a whole other level. He averaged 25 points per game in those playoffs and carried the Valley Vipers to a D-League title, while getting his name back on scouting boards for the 2013 draft. He went from being an undrafted prospect to a potential late first-rounder, and would be picked by the Wizards 35th overall. He had a pretty lame rookie season due to some nagging injuries before showing signs of promise when he won the 2014 Summer League MVP. But still, he just couldn't break into an NBA rotation. It didn't really help that the Wizards had gone out and gotten Paul Pierce that offseason, which slimmed down his playing time even more than it already had been. He wouldn't be offered a contract past his rookie deal, and after getting shot in the leg just days before the start of the next season, it was pretty damn clear that he wasn't going to get one. And just 2 months after that, he appeared on The Real Housewives of Atlanta when he had a crash out where he pushed his arm to the ground. So yeah, he was pretty off the rails at that point. He'd had insult to injury the next summer when he punched the next player in the face, breaking his jaw before fleeing the scene and getting arrested on battery and robbery charges. Rice would then start hooping overseas and actually do pretty well, but he would also get released by just about everyone for reasons ranging from assault in Australia to socking his teammate in the face in Israel. When you look at Rice's career, you might say, oh, he had a window, he had a Summer League MVP under his belt, he was consistently putting up numbers wherever he went, but he came with just such extra baggage. He was a ticking time bomb, and he learned the hard way that an immature player that can still hoop still might not be the kind of guy that teams look fondly at. In Marcus, there was a bit more success. After playing at Loyola Academy with his brother, Marcus transferred to Whitney Young Magnet High School, where he would lead his team to a state championship. He was ranked as the 60th best shooting guard in his class, which is at least something compared to his brother, and would sign with the University of Central Florida. In his freshman season, he averaged 8 and 3 before taking a full-time starting job in his sophomore year, the same year his brother joined him. He would average 15 points per game that season, which started to spark a bit of conversation about whether or not he was legit. But once you watched him play, you realized he was kind of just another run-of-the-mill D1 guy, and that he wasn't anything more than that. First off, he was undersized at the shooting guard position, so naturally his defense was disadvantaged, and he didn't make up for it with over-the-top efforts or anything like that either. Second, he was just an undersized slasher who didn't facilitate well or shoot the three ball. It seems like Bryan Colangelo's career will always be known for the way that it finished. There were some very high highs and some very low lows. And it all came to be because of who his father was, Phoenix sports mogul Jerry Colangelo. See, Colangelo was hired into the Suns front office in 1991 and was able to get promoted to general manager within just 4 years. He made a name for himself because of the savvy moves that he made to start his career, from drafting Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion to pulling off a string of trades that allowed for him to sign Steve Nash with the additional cap space he made. This team would be known as the 7 seconds or less Suns under coach Mike D'Antoni, and boy were they incredible. Colangelo would get to be a part of both of Steve Nash's MVP campaigns and saw boundless regular season success. That team was known for running and gunning, shooting a lot of threes, and relying on Amari Stoudemire's dominance in transition and the pick and roll. And had there not been beasts in the West like Shaq or prime Tim Duncan, or if they didn't run into injury issues every season, they probably would have seen more playoff success than they actually did. In 2005, Colangelo was able to win the NBA Executive of the Year award, but would only spend one more season in Phoenix before becoming the president and general manager of the Toronto Raptors. Although he dropped the ball early by drafting Andrea Bargnani first overall within his first few months, he would quickly make up for it because after signing Chris Bosh to a contract extension, the Raptors would win their division for the first time in franchise history, which won Colangelo his second Executive of the Year award. Chris. Well, let's rewind a bit to when he was playing high school basketball under the now UConn coach Dan Hurley. As a senior, he averaged 18.8 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 4.9 assists before committing to play basketball for the Manhattan Jaspers. Through his 2 seasons there, Smith averaged 9.9 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 1.2 assists per game before transferring to Louisville to finish out his college career. He would end up earning a starting spot by his senior year, but wasn't exactly playing at an NBA-ready level. But he was showing progress. He shot 40% from 3 in his Louisville stint and averaged 9, 4, and 2 before declaring for the 2012 NBA draft. And as you can probably guess, he went undrafted. He just wasn't on any team's radar, and who can blame him? But his story weirdly didn't end there. Around the same time that Chris was hooping at Louisville, J.R. Smith was establishing himself as one of the best 6 men in the NBA. He was a fan favorite, he had a special connection with Carmelo, and so then Chris Smith magically got a roster spot on the Knicks Summer League team. But even then, he stood out like a sore thumb. Everyone knew what was going on, straight up nepotism. People went so far as to say that he was maybe the worst player in the history of the Summer League. But it didn't stop there. The Knicks would end up signing him to a contract that August, but would be forced to cut him after he went through some knee issues. And so it shocked no one when he was seen on the Summer League roster for the next season. The Summer League went on, and Smith once again failed to stand out, but it was enough for the Knicks to sign him to another deal. Somehow. After making the opening day roster, it was clear that it was simply because his brother wanted him in the league, and because the Knicks liked JR, they obliged. He would quickly be assigned to the Knicks D-League team and play 23 games while averaging 8 points on 35, 25, 78 shooting splits. Both Costas and Thanasis achieved what most basketball players could only dream of. They made it to the league, they both have a ring, but when you view their careers with the knowledge that their brother is fucking Giannis, then it makes a bit more sense as to why they were there. Neither of them were really that skilled, kind of like Giannis in his younger years. Sure, they could hoop, but it was really just off talent alone rather than skill, and even at that, they were miles away from their brother. The fall of the Los Angeles Lakers in the early 2010s can be attributed to a few things. First off, Kobe was getting older, there were a few moves that straight up didn't pay off, and one of the people behind it all was Jim Buss, the brother of Jeannie and son of Jared Buss. You see, Jim learned the ins and outs of the front office operations as the years went on. In 1998, he was hired as the apprentice to Jerry West, the general manager, and he worked his way up from there pretty quickly. Well, to be honest, too quickly. But when your dad is Jerry Buss, then that's not exactly shocking. His first big decision came in 2004 when he hired Rudy Tomjanovich as the replacement to Phil Jackson, signing to a nice 5-year deal that only actually lasted 43 games before they went back to Philly in the next season, which might not have been that bad after all. Still, Buss would be promoted to vice president of player personnel, and in the 2005 draft, he would play a major role in drafting Andrew Bynum. In fact, he loved Bynum so much that he wanted the Lakers to be Bynum's team. He was ready to let everybody on that team go, including Kobe, in order for that to be the case. So when Kobe called for Bynum to be traded time and time again, Buss refused. After Phil Jackson left the team again, Buss did his best to let Mike Brown, the new coach, know that Bynum needed to get the ball more. But the worst part of that hire was that he didn't even consult Kobe, which once again showed that Jim was going to do things his way, no matter the cost. But not even telling Kobe? Come on, man. You should at least expect to rustle some feathers in his position. Kobe put so much time and effort into the Lakers franchise, and his worth got understated by a guy who had already become notorious for some questionable decisions.